Hello, this presentation today is on first-generation students and their motivation to attend and succeed in higher education. First-generation college students are a unique subgroup of students with distinctive challenges, processes, and perspectives on higher education. While definitions of first-generation college students vary, the definition utilized for this presentation is a student whose parents have never enrolled in post-secondary education. Whether a student's parent graduated from high school or not may also have an impact on student motivation and success. However, this research includes both students whose parents have a high school diploma, those who do not, or any combination of the two. Students in this subgroup often feel stuck between a desire to get a degree in order to break the family cycle of low education or low income, and feeling as if they do not belong in higher education. This then places a gap between them and their families and them in higher education. These students from first-generation families may be encouraged by their parents or guardians to attend a college or university, but typically do not receive adequate guidance in navigating the college selection, admission, and transitional process. And navigating the complex process of searching and applying for colleges is difficult to do without any guidance. Students whose parents have gone through the college admissions process themselves have a foundational understanding of how college functions, thus allowing them to pull from a personal well of experience for their children regarding issues such as the timeline, the requirements, expectations, and what a competitive college is in the present day. Throughout the research, the term cultural capital riddles the pages. There are a plethora of definitions of cultural capital or social capital, one being a form of capital that resides in relationships among individuals that facilitates transaction and the transmission of different resources. Bourdieu's social reproduction theory states that those who have access to forms of capital that are seen as valuable within society, such as economically, socially, or culturally, are able to then maneuver through systems easier than those whose capital is seen as less valuable. Based on this theory, first-generation college students may have lower levels of social capital than students whose parents attended college and thus experience a more difficult time navigating the college admissions and transitional process into college. Lower social capital equals less access and less knowledge on the academic and social choices to make prior to and while in college. These systemic challenges make getting access to higher education harder for first-generation students. So looking at this picture, you see that it moves from one generation on the left side to the next generation on the right, and it acknowledges that information, culture, and the current financial situation of that first generation are typically passed on from one generation to the next. So in the top left corner, you see in the red picture that family has more money, more social capital, and more cultural capital. Therefore, generation 2 of that top family has the same resources. One of the primary theories to understand when looking at how students make the college choice is Hostler and Gallagher's developmental approach, which is also known as the college choice model. This approach presumes that students move through a three-step process, starting first with the educational aspirations, which is also known as the predisposition phase, to the search phase, and finally, the final choice and selection phase. Another theorist, Perna, takes us a step further by acknowledging how external factors influence these steps and decisions. While first-generation college students may typically understand that a bachelor's degree or beyond is beneficial, these same students also commonly think that this is an unreasonable or unachievable goal. According to a study conducted by the National Center for Education Statistics, students who do not have at least one parent who obtained a bachelor's degree or higher had lower educational expectations than their peers. This ranges from a willingness and desire to take their SAT or ACT and begin the college process, or simply their expectations on what level of education they can achieve, such as a technical degree versus associate's degree versus a master's degree. Also, a higher percentage of first-generation students expected to do a maximum of a 2-year degree in comparison to their continuing generation peers who expected to do a minimum of a bachelor's degree. Lastly, continuing generation students are much more likely to obtain a bachelor's degree than their first-generation counterparts. Right now, about 57% of continuing generation students achieve a bachelor's degree, and about 17% of first-generation students achieve a bachelor's degree. Overall, research shows that there's a direct correlation in gap in achievement based on the education of their parents. Other trends show that low-income areas correspond with lower college attendance and achievement. Thus, there is a higher instance of first-generation students less prepared for college in these areas. Looking at this map up here, the areas that are red are the lower income areas, which is why this subculture is so important to study, so students from these areas are served well. First-generation college students are motivated differently to attend college. One of the primary ways is extrinsically through intentional or unintentional parental guilt. Parents who regret their decisions or lack of higher education may have a tendency to raise the expectations of their child or children in order to help them, quote, create a better life for themselves. When asked about the role of her parents in her motivation to attend college, Jordan Muniz stated, "My parents didn't finish school, so ever since I was little, they have encouraged me to pursue higher education so that I wouldn't make the same mistakes that they did and wouldn't struggle like them." Muniz focused on how this encouragement was gentle and positive from her parents. On the other hand, this type of parental influence can have a negative impact on students as well. Jennifer Flanahan, 2016 alumna of Messiah, states, "I definitely think that being a first-generation college student put so much pressure on me within my family, since I was representing not only myself, but their education in a way. One of my parents didn't even finish high school. I think adjusting so much while also trying to please them was a big part of why my anxiety skyrocketed in college." In the case of Muniz, her parents gently encouraged her to obtain a degree so that she could be financially stable. However, Flanahan, whose parents may potentially have had the same goal, created a stressful pressure that induced anxiety for her from the start of the college search process throughout college. First-generation students struggle to reconcile the tension between their identity at home and their own identity choices. Education forces a gap between the student and their families, as well as their perceptions of one another. You could hear the challenge that Jen faced when she says, "I found I was more careful with my words and statements when interacting with my family, as to not sound too smart or make them feel bad for not having received a formal education. They wanted me to have a formal higher education, but at the same time, I find they will use it against me in certain ways, thinking I automatically know the answer to everything, or should be making more money than I do, or supporting them more than I am able to." So taking all of this into consideration, I give the following recommendations. First, target low-income regions with more support. Number 2, guide students through foundational processes. So one of the most basic needs is help in understanding the procedures. Families without any knowledge on how to fill out an application to make the student look most appealing or how to fill out the free application for federal student aid are less likely to succeed in those areas. Number 3, equipping parents to equip their children. In order to address this divide between families and their students, it could be incredibly beneficial to equip the parents to then guide their children. And lastly, a bridge program to increase cultural capital. The lack of cultural and social capital makes students feel as if they do not belong in higher education. However, if students were given a chance to gain some knowledge about how college campuses function before they are in the full swing of classes, they will gain some capital and transition into college better. So overall, this subculture is unique, but with a little help in the process leading up to college, first-generation students can thrive in post-secondary education.